Hello, everybody. Welcome to today's webinar. We'll just give it 1 minute until we get to 4 o'clock and let people come in. Hello, everyone. My name's Alex. Welcome to today's webinar. We've just hit 4 o'clock. Suzanne, are we good to start or want to wait another minute?
We might wait another minute,
Yeah,
Alex.
all good.
A few more. I think you can make a start, Alex.
Thanks, Suzanne. So thank you all for joining us today. And today's webinar, an introduction to Little Learners Love Literacy. My name's Alex, and I manage the team here at Little Learners Love Literacy. And we also have Suzanne with us today. She's a teacher, coach, and consultant at Little Learners too. She'll be with us for the whole webinar and monitoring the Q&A. If you have any questions, you can pop them in there. Presentation should last about half an hour today, maybe a little longer. And if you have any questions during the presentation, as I said, please pop them in that Q&A in Zoom, or you could hold on to it till the end if you'd like to be unmuted and have a chat. But today we're using Zoom webinars, so you will be muted until the end, and then you can raise your little yellow hand and we can unmute you if you would like to talk through your question. So before we begin, I'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to land, sea and community. And we pay our respect to their elders, past, present, and extend that respect to all Aboriginal Torres Strait Islander peoples today. All right, so let's get started. Learning to read and spell isn't natural, nor is it easy for many children. And Little Learners Love Literacy is an explicit teaching program designed to get all children to read and spell with confidence. It uses an evidence-informed, systematic, synthetic phonics approach to ensure every child can succeed. So on the screen, you'll see our resources and what the program looks like as a whole. And today we're going to spend some time digging into what systematic synthetic phonics is before we get into the details of the program. So the Little Learners program comprises of professional learning, teaching resources, practice and application games, decodable books, intervention resources, and assessments for reading and spelling as well. The program teaches phonemic awareness and phonics for reading and spelling. We teach spelling from the very beginning of the program, as well as, so phonemic awareness and phonics, as well as morphology and handwriting. And also vocabulary and oral language skills. So vocabulary being very vital for reading comprehension at this stage of children's literacy development, and oral language skills being the foundation upon which all of our literacy learning is built, as you can see with the Big Six model here. So in today's webinar, we'll have a quick introduction to phonics before we explore the scope and sequence and then the resources. So let's start with what is phonics? Phonics is the understanding that sounds of our spoken language, phonemes, can be expressed by letters or combinations of letters called graphemes as part of our written language. So a phoneme is a speech sound that we say or hear, and there are 44 of these in the English language, depending on accents. These sounds combine to make up all of our spoken words. So every word we say is comprised of phonemes or speech sounds. And a grapheme is a letter or a group of letters that we read or write. Graphemes can be one letter, or it can be a group of 2, 3, or 4 letters representing one speech sound. And there are multiple graphemes for each phoneme. So there are over 250 graphemes or spelling choices in English. Phonics is also the ability to use this knowledge, which is known as the alphabetic code, to read and spell words. So Little Learners of Literacy explicitly teaches systematic synthetic phonics, and that is the teaching of those relationships between phonemes and graphemes in a clear and logical order, so children can blend or synthesize those phonemes to read words accurately from a very early point with no guessing. So how do we read and spell using phonics? So we're learning our phonemes and our graphemes, but how do we apply them to reading and spelling? Teaching phonics is essentially giving children the instructions of how to crack our alphabetic code. And our alphabetic code works in 2 directions. So you can see here up on screen, we can use that knowledge to decode words or read them by matching sounds to print to sound. So saying each sound in the written word and blending those sounds together to read the word. So the example on the screen here is the word cat. We can see that in print in front of us. We can break that down into the graphemes or letters and sound out each of those letters at and blend them together to say the word cat, cat, cat. Conversely, you can encode by matching sounds to print. So segmenting and identifying each sound in a word before writing the letters that represent those sounds. So we could hear the word cat. We could break that down into its sounds. K, at. We know it's got 3 sounds, and we can write a letter that represents each of those sounds to spell the word. Even though spelling is much more difficult and takes longer to master, reading and spelling are flip sides of the same coin in this way, which makes systematic synthetic phonics a very efficient teaching approach because spelling is taught from the very beginning alongside reading using this same alphabetic code knowledge. This is our phonics scope and sequence for the Little Learners program, our sequence of 7 stages. Introducing simple letter sound relationships and gradually introducing the complex alphabetic code, i.e. multiple spellings or graphemes representing consonant and vowel phonemes. So in Little Learners of Literacy, we teach all 44 phonemes in a systematic order, starting with the sounds children find easier to articulate, s and for example, and we work to blend those sounds together to make words. We also teach a range of common spellings for each of the phonemes in our sequence. And as I said before, there are hundreds of grapheme phoneme correspondences, so spellings of those phonemes, but we focus on the most common ones to give children access to more words at a faster rate. And we also teach phonemic awareness and phonics skills throughout the program every single day. So we teach both pure phonemic awareness, so the oral only, and we also teach phonemic awareness and phonics together, so that awareness of speech sounds, but together with letters. And the more alphabetic code knowledge or letter knowledge that children master, the more combined phonemic and phonics work is done during our program, and that's as recommended by research. This is how the scope and sequence looks when we break it down, our 7 stages across Foundation and Year 1 for each week. So this is our teaching sequence for the first 2 years of school. So in the first term of Foundation, children learn the simple code. When we talk about the simple code, we're really talking about the letters of the alphabet and one sound, the most common sound they represent. So we're going through A to Z, but in a different order, which is entirely intentional. So there is one sound to one grapheme correspondence during this time. And as I said before, some of the sounds are easier for children to say and feel and hear. So for this reason, we start with and s first. These are continuous sounds. They can sustain these sounds in their mouths. So when they come to blend words, it's much easier to start with these sounds. They can blend them together and hear the word that they are blending much more easily. Vowel sounds are really difficult to discriminate, as I'm sure we are all aware. They are tricky. That's where we see children have the most issues with spelling in the early stages. So we really need to introduce these carefully in a sequence that gives children time to consolidate their knowledge and feel really confident about using those vowels. So we spread them out across stages 1 to 4, and we keep and really separate to avoid that really common confusion between those. Other things to draw out from the sequence here, we teach Q and U together for simplicity. They're always represented together in our orthography core. We have X, the letter X, in our stages 1 to 4 sequence. That letter represents 2 sounds, as in fox, and exactly. So they're just 2 outliers from that 1 sound to 1 grapheme correspondence. So we work our way through that simple code, and then in term 2, towards the end, we move on to our stages +4, 5, and 6, where we start to learn how to blend adjacent consonants in words. So we go from working with consonant-vowel-consonant words, so 3-letter words, to working with more letters in our words, so maybe consonant-vowel-consonant words. When we move on to stage 7.1, the first unit of our stage 7, we start to look at long vowels and different graphemes that represent them, and reasons why we might choose one grapheme over another when we are spelling words. In year 1, we revisit stage 7.1 because these sounds can be quite easily confused, these vowel sounds, and we need to consolidate the short vowels. And let's be honest, we've had the summer holidays in between, and we expect most children have experienced some kind of summer slide there. So we teach the common graphemes for these sounds, again, A, E, I, and O. There are also opportunities when we get to year 1 to extend some of our students. So you'll see on the screen here, we have EIGH as in 8. We also have additional content like contractions, homophones, and morphology. Adding the suffix ing to words here and using the doubling rule associated with that are added as an extra layer for our year 1 students. So it's not just straight revision from our foundation year. So additionally, during the year 1 sequence, we also teach the R control vowels. They come in our 2nd term. And the morphology in our sequence is scattered throughout. I just mentioned ing. We also have ER in the 2nd term. And we have the drop the E rule in the last term of year 1. And our morphology starts as early as foundation term 3 with the suffix S and ES. So this is the phonics, phonemic awareness, and morphological content in our sequence for reading and spelling. But we're also working on handwriting, vocab, oral language, and comprehension throughout the program too. So the content in this teaching sequence is taught explicitly through the Little Learners program. Explicit teaching means that we never ask children to do anything that they haven't been taught and practiced with the help of the teacher and their peers. So as educators, we make absolutely no assumptions. Every time we're teaching something new, we do I do, we do, you do. We check understanding at each of these stages, and we use that information to tweak our teaching accordingly. So whether that's through reteaching or doing more worked examples together or spending longer on independent practice and application, some students do need that to master a piece of content from the sequence or a skill. Or it might be arranging additional instruction for intervention if there are a few that are struggling to grasp a new concept. So for this to work effectively, your learning intentions or objectives have to be very specific and achievable, which is where our sequence comes in. And each lesson has to be planned in a logical sequence. So to build little bit by little bit in really small steps, keeping the bulk of the students moving together. So having a tighter bell curve of achievement in your class as possible, which makes it much easier for you to manage your classroom and also to identify any issues with students and address them. So additionally, effective explicit teaching using little learners leverages the many advantages of instructional routines to do this explicit teaching of these small steps whilst managing students' cognitive load. So instructional routines help reduce student cognitive load, boost motivation, and are really crucial for making learning stick. That's because it helps students learn things faster by focusing on the what in the sequence rather than the how of the activity, because we're doing the same routines over and over. We're reducing the amount of new information that they have to process. And that helps them maintain attention because they know what they're doing and they can experience success. Additionally, they obviously also reduce your teacher planning time, which is your cognitive load addressed throughout this program as well. So this grid you can see on the screen is a list of our teaching routines or instructional routines. And you can see on here which of these routines correlates to the parts of the big six that I showed you earlier. So oral language, phonemic awareness, phonics for reading, phonics for spelling, fluency, vocabulary, comprehension, and handwriting. Because you'll notice a lot of our instructional routines and little learners are doing more than one thing. And we're making the absolute most of our teaching time. Each routine is scripted in the Little Learners of Literacy playbook at the beginning of each of our teacher activity resource books. So we do have a script there that you could practice and work from after completing your professional learning. And then if we look at how this all fits into the resources and the program itself. So this is our Little Learners of Literacy explicit teaching routine. We use the principles of revise, teach, practice, and apply to explicitly teach children in the classroom. And all of our plans follow this explicit structure every single day. So this is how it might look when we are teaching some of the stage 1 content from our scope and sequence. We have revise, so using our speed sounds and chance cards and word cards to ensure automatic recall of phoneme, graph, and correspondences. Also some spaced practice there, and also applying that to becoming more automatic at word reading. Teaching, we identify from the Little Learners sequence what we're going to teach next and use the teacher activity resource book to lead that teaching. We'll have a look at what that looks like in a second. And we also use our Milo's Birthday Surprise storybook as part of that process. Practice, we plan how children will practice this skill that you've just taught, our piece of content, to reach mastery. And then we apply this knowledge with decodable books and independent writing, and then we'll assess. So on screen here, you'll see our LARS and LAS assessments. There are formal assessment tools to monitor progress and establish learning pathways. But of course, we're checking for understanding and formatively assessing throughout every aspect of our teaching model every day. So this is the how this explicit teaching looks. And it looks like this throughout the program with some slight differences at different stages. So let's have a look at some of the routines in more detail and the resources available in the program for each of these. Just before we move on, I just want to show you inside the teacher resource books. I mentioned that the routines of revise, teach, practice, apply, and assess are all planned out every day for you with the program. This is what it looks like inside our teacher resource books. So you'll get an overview for your week with background information that you need and all the learning intentions. A weekly planning grid showing you which routines that you will teach on each day. And then for each of those days, there's a set of teaching notes to guide you through that process and give you any additional information you require. And this is what the teacher resource books look like. And you'll see them come up a few times in terms of what is inside them in today's presentation. So we start with a phonemic warm-up every day in our stages 1 to 4 and +4, 5, and 6 of the program as well. And two of our key phonemic warm-ups are Ali Talk and the Robot Walk. I'll just tell you what they are. Robot Walk is for phonological awareness at the syllable level. So we do it a lot around a lot of themes. Teachers shout words and children have to take individual robot steps for each of the syllables they hear in a word that they segment in the word. Ali Talk is for pure phonemic work, so blending and segmenting with our Ali alligator puppet who only speaks in sounds. So there are various Ali Talk activities that we use throughout the program that are planned into those teacher activity resource plans. There are other activities scheduled too, and as I said, that's every day in stages 1 to 4, and that's nearly every day in plus 4, 5, and 6 as well. So let's look at Revise. Two of our key routines from Revise are speed sounds and chants. That's to revise our phoneme grapheme correspondences and also our speed words to practice applying those previously learned sounds and letters to decoding words. We also revise previously taught concepts here and previously learned heart words as well, quite often too. And this is what the speed sounds and chants might look like.
What a mess. Huff and puff. Up the hill. Ooh. Black duck. K. Shed. Shop. Shh. Chicken and chips. Ch. Catch the witch. Ch. Sing a song. Thud, thump, thunk. Elephants and dolphins.
So you can see there we're using characters and phrases from our decodable books and from Milo's Birthday Surprise as mnemonics for children to remember the sounds and letters that we've been teaching. So let's have a quick look at teach in more detail. So key teaching routines include what we'd call the sound box, Milo's Birthday Surprise, handwriting instruction, and some spelling routines as well, super spelling and spelling on mini whiteboards. Let's have a quick look at what we mean by each of those. So the sound box, we teach every new sound in Little Learners of Literacy with a sound box. We begin by getting children to hear the focused sound, we articulate it, and then we move on to seeing it, so reading it, and then finally we teach children how to write it. So the sound box is designed to introduce a new phoneme or sound, building the awareness of that sound, the phonemic awareness, before we start to link it to a letter. So teacher puts a range of objects and pictures into the box that begin with this focused sound. We keep it nice and tight, so we just want around 6 objects into that box. And then children take out an object and identify it. Children are sound detectives and they have to work out by segmenting the first sound in all of those words what our new sound is for this week. So in this box, I wonder if you can work it out: a magnet, a muffin, maracas, mushrooms, and mandarins. Our sound detectives would hopefully work out here that our sound for the week is which is our first sound in the sequence. It's a great opportunity for children to be exposed to different vocab as well, and to talk about those, because they'd hopefully maybe say orange, and we could go through all of those different types of oranges. But really, we want to keep this snappy, tight, and really work on that phonemic awareness, segmenting that first sound. Then we go to Milo's Birthday Surprise, where we meet our new character that represents the sound. This is something that makes the Little Learners program really different. So we learn our sounds and letters through a story from the very beginning of the program. It's a picture book, and it's a platform to introduce each sound and letter of the simple code. So Milo, the monkey, is munching on a muffin, while he makes up a list of friends who might want to come and play with him for his birthday. And each page of the book, Milo goes to visit a friend. All his friends are busy. They are all busy doing something to do with their focus sound and letter. Sally the snake is skateboarding, for example. And Milo gets all a bit sad by the end. All of his friends are all busy. But then, of course, we find out at the end, they've all been busy making things for Milo's birthday surprise outing. And you can see at the end, we have a nice party and a celebration for Milo. The features of Milo's birthday surprise, the text uses a lot of words beginning with our new focus sound. So this is designed for the teacher to read to children and really emphasize those sounds, the focus sound. And then children can find all of the objects in the pictures that begin with that focus sound. So lots of phonemic awareness. You can see in the pictures here, we've got lots of things beginning with for children to find. And then we can use the side panel to introduce the letter that represents that sound, uppercase and lowercase. Then we'd have a go at handwriting. So using mini whiteboards and using your whiteboard, you model whilst you describe or verbalize those actions and thoughts, forming the letter on the whiteboard. So you might say, I start at the top and I go down to the line and flick. I say the sound. You might model it again before children then have a go on their own whiteboards, chin it so that you can see and help make corrections for them. Spelling activities include routines such as super spelling. So super spelling uses our speed, sounds and chance cards. The teacher has a list that's provided in the teacher activity resource book and the cards are handed out to the children. The teacher dictates a word and children have to segment or sound out that word before they pick. Children with the cards have to go up to spell the word. It's a really great opportunity for error correction. So really drawing on the mistakes that the children could make in the class. And it's really to bring together all of the children. They have to help each other to spell these words. We then, of course, read or decode the word they've spelled to check it's right. We have two versions of super spelling. So we build words and we also do a sound swap version. After they've done that, they'll do some dictation on mini whiteboards using the same words that we have used in the super spelling. So we've spelt them with cards as a group. Now we're going to spell them using our whiteboards and pens as the teacher dictates them. So there's some of the teaching routines that we use very regularly throughout the program. Practice then is really key to reaching mastery. We have teacher-led practice and independent practice. So teacher-led practice might look like this. Our Let's Spell routine, scaffolded spelling dictation, where children have to listen to the dictated word, circle the correct letters in each of the columns, and then write the word before they then fold that page in half, hear the words dictated again and write them without that scaffolding and support. Also have the read and grab word game. This eventually becomes an independent activity, but in the early days, we absolutely need some teacher supervision with this one. So it's planned in as a teacher-led practice activity. This is a really fun card game for a small group. Lots of practice of decoding backwards and forwards. Children get to steal the cards off of their teammates to collect different sets of words. So on the screen here, you can see colour and a character on each of these. And children have to decode the words they pick from the pack of cards. And if someone else in the group has the same colour and character as the colour and character on their card, they get to steal it. But they have to decode the cards that they steal off of their partners. So these cards go backwards and forwards until children collect a full set, and the winner is the person with the most full sets at the end. Let's Write is our dictation activity. Now we do this as a whole class, as a teaching routine every single week towards the end of the week, but we also do it in a small group as well with teachers leading that. So that we can differentiate. So this is a dictation routine with varying levels of difficulty. Words, phrases, sentences, and challenge sentences are provided in the teacher activity resource book so that you can use what's most appropriate to your group during the week. We follow the procedure of the Let's Write 6 super steps to do this. And this is a great opportunity for children to show what they know and for you to really see how they can apply their new learning to writing and to spelling without any scaffolding or support. We also do the Sound Swap word game in a small group. So we have it, of course, in the whole class as part of super spelling, and then we have a small group version of it in this game format. There are word chains for teachers to follow. This is really, really powerful routine and game. It's very engaging, and children are doing so many things when they're doing this Sound Swap game. They are building words that you're dictating from the list. And there's a couple of different ways to play it, but they are essentially doing advanced phonemic awareness work during this activity. So they are substituting, they are deleting and adding sounds from words, they're blending and segmenting, but they're also doing reading and spelling at the same time. The independent practice looks in various formats like this. So we might be doing handwriting practice. These are some examples of handwriting practice from the teacher activity resource books. And sound and write is one of our practice activities from the resource books as well. This is a really lots of bang for your buck in this one. We do reading, we do handwriting, spelling, and also some writing during this routine. And it runs all the way through the program as with the rest of our routines as well. I just want to show you this because all of those resources are inside the teacher activity resource book, but we do have practice workbooks coming next term, which have all of these activity sheets for the independent practice collated together into these cute workbooks. The other key part of our practice activities is our games. So we've looked at two already, which were teacher-led, the Read and Grab and the Sound Swap word game. But we also have a number of other games that children can use independently. You can also use them as a whole class and in small group applications as well. So bingo games is on there. We also have the Read, Write and Draw boxes. This is a practice routine for children to work entirely independently while you're working with a small group, doing one of the activities we have just recently discussed. So children pick cards, there are words, phrases, and sentences. They have to read them, read it to their partner, and then write it. They can turn the card over, check their writing before they draw a picture to show their understanding of what they've just read and written. The cards themselves have lots of vocab with multiple meanings included. So the comprehension and vocab element is really well catered for in this independent activity. Our decodable quizzes are really unique and lots of fun. So children get practice reading short decodable questions matched to the teaching sequence. So lots of sentence level reading practice. But they are designed for a springboard for discussion as well. So oral language, vocab, and comprehension work as part of these quizzes. And then we move to apply by reading decodable books. So our decodable books are stories or non-fiction texts written for young or struggling learners to read by decoding. So sounding out and blending sounds to read words. Each decodable book only uses the sounds and letters that children have already been taught to date. So at the end of stage 1, children can start to read stage 1 decodable books, and they just use 8 letters and sounds that children have already taught. So there's nothing to trip them up there. Other features of decodable books, they provide a lot of repetition of those new sounds and letters. They avoid predictable sentence structures. So we're not about memorizing here. We are really using our phonics knowledge to read each word. Lots of age-appropriate vocab, lots of different topics, engaging in meaningful continuous text. So they allow readers to build that vocab and their comprehension skills and also build their fluency. So our decodable books also use a number of heart words as well as the letters and sounds. Heart words are common words that aren't decodable for the reader yet. So they contain parts that need to be learned off by heart. So we'll go and look at an example in a second. But we need these words in our decodable books to construct meaningful sentences. So they're often high frequency words, and important a part of our approach to allow children to read and write that connected text independently. So here's our example. The word is my, and children by this point will know the first sound of this word, but they won't know I represented by a Y until we get to our stage 7.1 during the sequence. This is the unknown bit, the bit that they at the moment need to learn by heart. So we don't teach these by memorizing the shape of the word or by any other memorization strategy. We break them down into their sounds. We recognize the bits children know, and then we give them the grapheme phoneme correspondences that they don't know. When we do come across some truly irregular words later in the program, there aren't many of them, we look at the etymology or the history of those words to understand why they are spelled in that way. So we have 3 series of decodable, or we have 4 series of decodable books at the moment on sale as part of the program. So the first one, our original series, Pip and Tim. So this series goes all the way through from stage 1 to stage 7.5 of our program. They're all about the Zan family of Box Hill in Melbourne. Pip and Tim are brother and sister. We meet their mum and dad and their pets, and we follow them throughout the stages of the Little Learners program on their adventures, everyday life, fun that they have. We meet more of their friends as they get older. When they start school, we meet their teachers, and we also meet friends such as the very naughty Smith twins, Beth and Seth, later in foundation. So these books are great fun stories for children to be reading. We'll have a look at some of the insides here so you can see how the look of them progresses. There's a lot of cross-curricular content in these storybooks. Lots of cross-curricular content in these storybooks, and lots of different text features as well for fiction. So we have here, you can see we've got lots of speech bubbles and sound effects. We have flow charts, we have blogs, web pages, emails, or oimail as they're called in our books, and diagrams, labels, and lots of factual information as Pip and Tim start to learn more about the world. Other series is called the Whiz Kids. They run from stages 1 to 6. And these follow exactly the same sequence as Pip and Tim, so you can use them as additional practice. There's lots of diversity in these books. They're packed with humour. Each stage introduces a new set of characters. My personal favourites are Viv and Hot Dog Bob from stage 2 of the series. They make a reappearance as well in stage +4, which is rather nice. So lots of variety here, and they're perfect for extra practice, decoding skills, fluency, and there's plenty to discuss and explore in these books also. And the third series, our core series, the Little Learners Big World non-fiction series. This goes like Pip and Tim from stage 1 right through to stage 7.5, covering a range of cross-curricular topics and text types, and really packed with a lot of rich vocab. Here's some examples of some of the text features. So children are going to build content knowledge and vocab with this series, vital for comprehension development. The text features used throughout include labels, captions, fact files, contents, headings, tables, indexes, diagrams, and infographics. And they're still fully decodable, matched to our sequence. Here's just what they look like. These are some of the younger level ones. And our last series of decodable books to talk about today are the Fox Kid books. This is a new range of decodable chapter books. They've been designed for struggling readers from year 2 upwards. They follow our scope and sequence starting with consonant, vowel, consonant level. So stages 1 to 4 words are used in our first 2 chapter books of the series. There are 6 chapter books, 6 accompanying workbooks, and 3 card games. that are all designed around this series for the older struggling reader, written by Adrian Beck, who is a local children's trade author. Here's some examples of what these pages look like inside. So a really graphic novel style to these books. In the back, we have lots of features, as we always do with our Little Learners books. We have questions to talk about, visual prompts to retell the chapters of these books. We have our speed sounds, some speed words, some heart words to practice, and some speed sentences, all that can be used as part of our warm-up before we start reading together. And there's also teacher notes to support whoever is reading with the child, to support them when they struggle with any words, and have some comprehension questions to ask them as well for a conversation. These are some insides of the workbooks that go alongside the series. These are focused on phonics, phonemic awareness, comprehension, and also writing. And these can be used alongside the card games and the chapter books in some Tier 2 intervention scenarios. Lastly, I just want to draw on our home reading journals. So it was a slightly frustrating situation for us that we were getting all of these beautiful decodable books being sent home to support readers in an evidence-based way, but schools have no choice or no options out there apart from to send home reading journals that really supported a balanced literacy approach. So we've made our own. They support evidence-based reading strategies. So there is support for parents in there. There are also reading awards and phonics activities for children to complete as well. The reading journal pages allow parents and teachers to log library books and decodable books. So library books that are read to children and discussed at home, as well as the decodable books that children read to their parents. Space also for some parent-teacher communication and some rating of those books on the children's behalf as well. Lastly, the assessments. I mentioned these earlier. With the LARS and the LAS is our Little Learners assessment of reading skills. The LAS is our Little Learners assessment of spelling skills. They've been designed to assess and monitor students' skills, identify in diagnostic detail the specific needs of each student. Because we are explicitly teaching our sequence, when we go back to assess that, we can see the exact gaps that children have, and we can go back and reteach that or address it. So we can also use these to demonstrate, of course, what students know and their ability to apply this knowledge to spell and read. The LARS has single words or non-words assessed, and also connected text, so unseen decodable texts. And they provide a formal assessment and ongoing record of skills achieved as well, so you can see the impact and report to parents. Sneaky, sneaky, sneaky little peek. We also have an online service which is in development, and that will be coming in term 4. So that will be ebooks and online teaching support. Lastly, professional learning, really crucial for making the most of this program and to really make sure all of your team have the foundational knowledge they need to do this approach justice. So we do these professional learning workshops. They're 2 days. We do them interstate in face-to-face with our partners, such as the Spelled Association. So you can check their website for the interstate face-to-face. We do them online every month. So you could join us through Zoom. We also run them at the Hub, which is our office in Surrey Hills in Melbourne. And we run them after school as well. So instead of doing 2 days, we do 6 after school sessions for an hour and a half through Zoom every term. And we also take requests to run workshops in your school or any requests for bespoke support once all of your team have done the workshop. We'd love to see you again for another free webinar as well. We run webinars on a range of topics once per week during term, and topics include things like using decodable books effectively, so you can look a lot more closely at our decodable book range and how you would use that in the classroom. We've got one on teaching heart words, teaching fluency, spelling, the assessments as well. So take a look, and please do feel free to join us anytime. If you sign up and you can't make it, don't worry, we send a recording afterwards anyway.
My name is Lisa Bellman-Ansell. I'm the reading specialist at New Gisborne Primary School. In 2017, at the end of term 3, I had over a third of the foundation cohort referred to me as at risk of not going to reach end of year benchmark levels. So a school with really hardworking, dedicated teachers, we couldn't get over a third of our foundation cohort to minimum statewide standards. So obviously things needed to change. I chose Little Learners because it was really fun and engaging for the students. It was very easy to follow for the teachers. It practiced the 6 key components of effective reading instruction. It was a systematic synthetic phonics approach, which is what all of the bulk of the research was telling me. The catalyst was really the decodable books, so that my students were able to apply what they were learning in context. So firstly, I implemented Little Learners into my Tiers 2 and 3 support program. And then after learning quite a bit about the program, I then implemented it into the Tier 1 or the whole classroom program in 2018. I found the implementation process actually quite easy. So first I did the initial teacher training, and then I found Little Learners to be really open. The support didn't stop at the end of the training. It's very much ongoing. So I was able to contact Little Learners anytime I had a question, and they would always answer me in a very detailed way, in a very timely fashion. Yeah, in a nutshell, it is happy and confident Little Learners. So we just don't have the amount of reluctant readers because all of our students are experiencing success. And we've really been able to reduce those instructional casualties. So like I said at the beginning, we started off with over 33% of our students at risk of not reaching end of year standards. We've been able to reduce that down to around about 5%. We've also seen a significant increase in our spelling data. And of course, the flow-on effect means that our writing composition is really, really strong. If I was to implement Little Learners, again, if I had my time over, I would ensure that everyone was on board, that the whole school was PD'd in the science of reading, the why we were implementing Little Learners, as well as really getting the community on board. I think any school embarking on a science of reading backed approach really needs to think about implementing a program with fidelity. So Little Learners has researched every element. They really are the experts.
And that's one of our several case study videos that we have on the website, and you'll also find some written ones if you want to hear from other teachers using the program. And you could also join our Facebook group, subscribe to our newsletter and blog as well to keep in touch, and to make connections and contact other teachers and schools also using the program if you have questions for them. So that's it for today, and it's time to take any questions if you have any. You can raise your hand and we'll unmute you, or type in the Q&A and Suzanne can read your questions out. Anything, Suzanne?
Not at the moment. We've had a couple come through while you were presenting, Alex, but there's nothing at the moment coming through.
Okie dokie. Well, if anything occurs to you after today, please don't hesitate to get in touch. You can contact us on our email, hello@learninglogic.com.au, or you can fill in the online form on our website. Contact us on Facebook as well. So thank you for attending today. We hope you found it useful, and keep an eye on our social media for more professional learning. We hope to see you again soon. Have a lovely evening.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Alex.